Well, good morning there, Patriots. Constitution vet here. Michael from Bible Every Morning should be here any minute. If not, no worries. We'll go ahead and get started. Make sure everyone's on here. Good morning, y'all. Good to see y'all. If y'all can, just please make a quick note in the chat box. Make sure everything's looking good. Everything looks good on my end. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh, there he is. Good morning. Looks like he is here. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend.
Hey, where's Joel?
Oh, he will not be able to do it today. He did mention he will be able to make it next week.
Okay. All right.
Is your setup different?
My setup?
Yeah, it looks different than last week.
What are you talking about?
You know, I think the quality last week was a little sketchy. This time it looks better. So.
Oh, you mean just the visual? Because my background here, everything's the same here.
Yeah, last week it just looked.
I'm not wearing a black shirt. I'm wearing a different color shirt.
Oh wait, I got it. I know what it is. You're wearing a hat. That's it. You actually look professional.
Was I not wearing a hat last week?
Last week I think you were not wearing a hat.
I don't know.
Unless I'm wrong, which I probably am. It's all good. How's it going?
All right. Sorry, I moved you. I moved myself. That was me.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I'm just gonna. I was. If Joel was in here, I was like, I got stuff to do, but he's not. So I need you to. You need somebody to bounce off of, right? You've got you got stuff to talk about with us.
Oh, I always have things to talk about, especially with my new line of work.
I know what one of the changes are. Also, this computer was on last week, and it had this picture, and now it's powered off. We do one of those, where's Waldo, or like what's different in this picture, right? 5 things are different this week than last week. Can you point them out? There's an bottle of whiskey over here, and actually there is. See that bottle right there?
I see that. Yeah.
I did not drink that whole bottle of whiskey.
I mean, I'm not going to judge you if you did. It's totally fine.
Quick story. I met the guy who brewed that whiskey, and it is the best whiskey I've ever tasted. And he told me the process, etc. And that whiskey bottle was like $140. And I said, dude, next batch, you got to sell him $1,000 a piece. Anyway, and he's an Armenian guy, and so
nice.
I was with him. There was a little bit left, and we celebrated and finished it off. And I said, I'm keeping this bottle as a keepsake. My wife's like, what's that empty bottle for? Too much information. Okay.
Yeah. My wife and I discovered a whiskey, a Buchanan clan whiskey. And it's really cool because it's Buchanan whiskey from the Buchanan clan, which is my clan. So we've discovered that, and it's awesome. It's the best scotch we've had in a long time. So, all right, Patriots, you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Let's get started.
Take it away, Ben.
Michael, got a very good question for you. You might have a good answer for this. We'll see. What is clickbait? How would you define that word from your perspective?
You know who Don Henley is? Ever heard of the Eagles?
Oh, the band?
Yeah. Yes. So Don Henley was one of the members of the Eagles, and in his solo career, he had a hit called "Dirty Laundry." You ever heard the song "Dirty Laundry"? I make my living off the evening news. Just give me something I can use. People love it when you lose. They love dirty laundry. You know, it's if it bleeds, it leads, that whole mentality. If it bleeds, it leads. So what is clickbait? It's coming up with a phrase or imagery that enrages, I guess, one of the emotions that strikes an emotion that will motivate you to click and find out more. There.
Right.
Is that a good
Right.
definition? Did I come up
Yeah.
with a good answer?
Yeah.
In a
No,
roundabout
I
way.
always like hearing
Bombshell
your
announced,
perspective
right?
on
Here's clickbait.
things.
Bombshell. And I honestly use that. I used it a lot on Sweet Home Maricopa. Breaking
Right.
news.
No, the title of today is resisting the temptation to become clickbait. And so first I want to get a good understanding of what clickbait actually is, right? The thing is, we see it all the time, but we don't actually think about it. First off, you have coupons. Now, coupons can be very good savings, but
Mhm.
what do they do to get you to get that coupon or to click on it, whatever? They have to make it look appealing, right? It's basic marketing 101.
My
If you
life
go
will be
to,
better if I use this coupon.
oh yeah, everything will be better if I save 5 cents. Like you have no idea. But like even if you go to fast food places, right? The food looks amazing to get you to buy it, right? Which that in itself isn't necessarily bad per se. But there comes a point though where it goes too far. So in your view, where do you think it goes too far? The idea of clickbait leading you in to click on this.
Well, who was I talking to? Maybe it was you last week. I can recognize I whether it's my professional training and my experience, or
Mm,
whether it's just intuition or common sense. I generally recognize when something's clickbait,
mhm.
and 99% of the time I like look the other way. But every now and then there's one like, okay, I know this is clickbait and they got me.
Right,
I got to see what this is. All right, all right.
right,
I know I'm clicking clickbait. Here you go.
right, right. Okay.
And so and it really is that 1% that's all they need, right? Just like all
Mhm.
the scammers out there. Why do people pull these scams? I'm a Nigerian prince trying to
Okay.
launder my money or whatever. It just
Right.
takes one person, out of a thousand, really, to think, what? I've struck gold. This is incredible. How did this person reach me? And to go for it, right?
Mm,
And
mhm.
so the value in that the few that don't recognize what it is, piling in. Um, what was the question again? You asked me a specific question, and I just go rambling.
Well, the question is how far is too far? Like
Oh,
we
how far is too
like
far?
I'm not naive. We live in a capitalist society. We know what marketing is. You have to sell a product. I
Yeah.
get that. Cool. But there comes a point where it does cross the line. So from your background, being in the industry that you're in, how far is too far for something to become clickbait?
As kind of a general sense or sensibility is when the phrase or the image or the message that is portrayed has nothing to do with the content once you click, right? When it
Bingo.
is a deception, right? Is
Right,
actual deception. That's too far.
right. Right, right. I agree. And that's a great transition. This is a very complex topic that we don't have tons of time to talk about, but what we can do is do this. I'm going to share this here real quick. So I found this definition very simple to the point. It says clickbait is a marketing and engagement strategy that uses sensationalist, misleading, withholding, or deceptive content to entice clicks. And the thing is, we've all seen it, especially on YouTube. It's very prevalent on YouTube. And the main point of this today, Patriots, is to encourage y'all, if y'all choose to start making content on any platform, really, or if you want to sell a product, don't fall into the temptation of clickbait. And here's what I mean by that. on one hand, I kind of get it. I understand. If you are trying to make a living, if you're trying to do something like this full time, I get it. You gotta get clicks. My job is a newsletter, right? At the end of the day, we gotta get clicks. But the same token, you can still get people looking at your content without becoming clickbait. It is possible. And so basically, my plan for today was to show y'all examples of good like marketing, bad marketing, and also show you guys that it's not just people on the left who do this. It's also people in our circles that are good
Oh
people,
yeah.
but have kind of fallen into that trap. And so we're going to finish off with what truly matters, which is scripture, because there is a connection here. Okay. So
Let me just interject something here.
yeah,
So
please go for it.
clickbait, it's a nice, buzzword that it's
Mhm.
a, it's a phrase that conveys you get it, right? You say one word and it's a bigger range of meaning encapsulated, right? So
Mhm.
clickbait, for example, you've got a movie. It's the same principle. You might not call it clickbait, but you got a movie coming out, and you know your movie's terrible, so you hire a promo company that cut the trailers, right?
Right.
And they
Right.
make this awful, awful, awful movie look like sexy.
Amazing.
And if there's like 30 seconds of action in the whole movie, that's going to be your whole trailer, right? 30 seconds of
Mhm.
action and
Right.
any salacious innuendo or whatever to make that turd look shiny. Right.
Mhm.
That's the same principle. Right. And just for the few people that are sucked in by that trailer, they're going to make a little money on day one. But after
Mhm.
day one, when the truth comes out that this is a turkey, that this movie's a turd, it drops off. So that the clickbait in that
Right.
sense is trying to get at least some compensation or payback for what they invested. And right. And so that's the theory of
Mhm.
clickbait. Enough people will click on it and they'll find out what it is right away and get away, but they'll have already clicked, and the click is all that matters, right?
Right.
But it also has a backfire effect. Too much clickbait. People are not. If you want an audience to keep coming, you can't use clickbait. You want to
Exactly.
keep
And
your
see, that's
audience.
the thing.
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. And you made a good point with the film industry. Like this is actually a very broad topic, right? And so what I'm going to do real quick, I'll pull up my screen here. Okay.
Sorry, but I got
All
to put this up.
right.
Yeah. Well, he's successful. He's doing very well.
Well, and you know what? Uh, Doug Nigzal falls into a category. Let me
Uh,
explain. So
uh,
this is my boy Mark Dice. Okay. Now Mark Dice is kind of in an interesting position. Okay. He falls to the category of face next to something. Anthony Brian Logan is the same thing, where you see his face, his
mhm.
actual face, looking at something. Okay, cool. But to be honest with you, this isn't even all that bad when it comes to being clickbait. Okay. Now, sometimes, whereas tiles like this, where it just says it's true, well, what's true?
Mhm.
Or the tide's starting to turn. Again, that's not fully on the far end, but kind of in the middle. However, when you see channels like this, I love this guy. He's a good dude. Vlad's a really awesome guy.
I'm glad. Yeah.
He started out from nothing. He's a really cool dude, but you can
He
kind of tell.
I have a little history with Vlad. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, I agree. God bless him. Love the guy.
Yeah.
And like early on, right when I started my Sweet Home Maricopa channel,
Mhm.
I had been communicating with him. Like
Yeah.
he had put his information out, and I reached out to him. So we were texting kind of back and forth. And then I started my channel, and I got up to about 1,000 subscribers, and
Mhm.
I think I'd asked him or something. Give me a shout out. And he gave me a shout out, and my subscribership doubled in a day, doubled in a day. And that helped the momentum, and I kept increasing it, etc. And so I have a fond place in my heart, and I used to watch him all the time. And that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, and again, he's a great dude. I want to make that very clear. An awesome guy. But this is an example of someone who has to understood the formula. And that's my next point here. There's a formula to this. You start noticing. At the beginning, it wasn't that prevalent. But when you get more recent, you start noticing he gets into that formula of having something in the background, the red circle, and then a shocked face, right? Again, I get it. I understand why, because that gets the clicks. That follows the platform's formula, right? And again, this is me, no disrespect at all, but it's just so y'all can start noticing what clickbait could actually look like compared to things that aren't. And another example here, Benny Johnson. I like Benny Johnson, but his big thing that I've noticed is his titles. Prime example right here. The title says, Trump shocks the world, announces Democrat vice president, front runner live on TV. Well, guess what? I fell into that trap because I'm like, oh, he did it. He finally announced it. Awesome. And I clicked on it, and guess what happened? No announcement the entire time. So when it comes to titles, that also is connected to news. So it's like you want to get people to look at what you're doing, but at the same time, Patriots, I urge you guys, don't be creating misleading titles. Again, he's a good dude. But when I see that, I expect to hear, okay, he made a choice. No, he didn't at all. So that's the next component. You have the visual component, you have the title component.
I need to also interject here. I need to answer Carrie's question. Because this is the business that I work in, all right?
Right.
Kelsey and Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, like literally, I did a piece on them yesterday. I did a piece on them the day before yesterday. It's like, but for you to answer your question, Carrie, it depends on your audience, right? Every channel has a very specific audience. For example, Sweet Home Maricopa, I'm an Arizona, like most of my audience is in Arizona, right? I mean, I focused on the investigation, into the election, etc. And so I built that audience, and that is good, and I have a nice big audience. But when I would do, for example, I would do, I'd put Katie Hobbs, Carrie Lake, right? Those are the videos that get the most numbers, and then I'm like, well, other things that I care about and that I know my audience cares about, like Joe Biden, Donald Trump, or something else, those videos would get far, far fewer views. So if you've built an audience that cares about, Kim Kardashian and Swift, putting their faces on every thumbnail is going to satisfy your audience, but you have to know your audience.
And I'm so glad that you said this, and this is why I love working with you, because you're so good at interjecting your views that are perfect transitions. And the transition is
almost like we drew it up this way, right?
Well, and the thing is, the transition is this. This topic is kind of complex. Right.
This is a good comment. You figure out who, that's when you lose if people keep abusing that, it turns you off to them. You may stick with them for a while, but after you've got enough, you just want to know rather than trying to figure it out. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, this topic transcends genres. Okay. So our main focus has been news, politics. But the whole thing of clickbait also goes into other areas as well. But let me show you an example of this, okay? So my wife and I love theme parks. We love going to theme parks and things like that. There's a channel here called Poseidon Entertainment. And what this guy does, he makes these really awesome videos talking about the theme park industry. They're phenomenal videos. But if you notice, the titles, the images are not clickbait at all. the titles aren't clickbait either. And keep in mind,
Right.
he doesn't have, I mean, he has a lot of subscribers, but not in like the millions, right?
Right.
But this is an example of content that's nowhere near clickbaity at all. But again, he still knows his audience.
Right.
The audience is
knows what they're
meaningful
getting.
people.
Yeah.
Right. Another example here is Nexpo. Now, Nexpo, this guy does a lot of really interesting videos over mysteries, conspiracies, like really interesting stuff. But again, his work, not clickbaity whatsoever. Now, this is interesting. This is a channel is called Urbex Hill. Now, there's a whole other genre called urbexing. Do you know what that means, urbex?
I do not.
Urbex stands for urban exploration. This is a whole nother culture of people that explore abandoned places. And it's a really
I have heard of
fascinating.
that. I didn't know
Okay,
the
yeah.
term urbex, but I have heard of that. Yeah.
It's a fascinating genre. This guy, he's based out of Cleveland, Ohio, and he
Wait,
explores.
scroll down a little bit. Scroll down. Right there. Okay. I saw a structure that I thought I recognized. Nope.
So he explores abandoned historical places. What makes this guy so good is that his content is not clickbaity at all. You see it, it's usually a photo of the place he's exploring.
Mm-hmm.
The titles aren't misleading. But check this out, though. He started to become clickbaity. See right here? This is the first
Yep.
video he made where he put his face,
His
right?
face on it,
The
yeah.
circle, the shocked look. He almost became clickbaity. But then he stopped doing that. Because I think his audience is like, hey, man,
He got some pushback. He's like, dude,
fall
don't
into
go
that
there.
trap. Right? And so this leads me to what truly matters. Let's go right here. So, Michael, if you can you read that for me, please?
And in their greed, 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 3, and in their greed, they will exploit you with false words. Their judgment from long ago is not idle, and their destruction is not asleep. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to
So
God.
let me be clear. I'm not saying everyone who falls into this temptation is a false prophet. I'm not saying that, right? However, the temptation to become a false prophet is still there. When you get so used to being clickbaity, that then bleeds into other areas of your life. When you become so accustomed to selling things, misleading people to get those clicks, who's to say that won't be part of other things that you do on a daily basis?
So, yeah, just from YouTube experience, right? Let me just say, to confirm what you're saying, in my conversations, with Doug and Q, I mean, those are the only other YouTubers I really have regular communication with and have, bounced ideas off of and listened to advice. And so there's this line you draw, for example, Doug, his entire livelihood now is YouTube. And thank God, right? Thank God they let him back on, and he's figured out how to navigate the topics, right? The hot topics, or the third rail not to touch, right? He's figured it out. But that is programming, right? It's like you're programming the way you think, right? It's behavior modification, right? So YouTube has, the combination of Doug's desire to make money and do something he loves to do, right? That he's good at, right? A communicator, an entertainer, right? And to make money, he can't just be himself. He has to be a version of himself. He has to modify his behavior, right? And so that, in my personal experience, I'm like, okay, do I title this thing where I think it's going to get more views, but there's something else that it's really about, and I want to draw those more people to find out this thing. Is that going to be, if I do it clickbaity and people will want to watch it, and then they'll find out about this important thing? Well, there's a percentage, and not being a statistician or even knowing the metrics, there's a percentage of the people going to be pissed off no matter how important the thing is. Like, this isn't what I thought it was when I clicked it. Clickbait, you're clickbait. Yes, I use clickbait. I have used clickbait. And there's to be 100% clickbait, you become fake, right? And it's chasing, essentially, it's the grifter type. And in YouTube and all the social media platforms are filled with those. They're just trying to find a market, a niche, to have an audience. So it's the attention, the recognition, the feeling of a position of authority, and people like me, and making the money, right? And those things end up, if your character isn't strong, you don't have a firm foundation to start with, you're going to be shaped and molded by this process. And that's what being tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine, right? You have to have a firm foundation before you do this stuff, or you're just gonna.
I completely agree. That's a great point.
Chasing the wind.
Having that firm doctrine is what can really guide you down that path. The path of, hey, listen, I have to make a living, do certain things to make a living. That's fair. I get that. It's when you become addicted to that. It's when you become the clickbait in other aspects of your life. That's when you start down the dark path, right? And the thing I want to wrap up this with is, in my opinion, the worst of all. Matthew 7:15, beware the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. In my humble opinion, the worst form of clickbait are false prophets. People who masquerade themselves as pastors, priests, whoever, who say they are serving the Lord, when you know full well, if you have a good content of character, you can see right through it. And so that's a topic I know can be sensitive to a lot of people. But the thing is, we are in a day and age where our faith, like, it really takes real courage to be a devout Christian, a real Christian in today's day and age, and to not fall victim to clickbait leaders, to not fall victim to the false prophets, to not become a feel-good Christian, to not give in to the prosperity gospel instead of the truth, right? And so that's it. That's the whole connection. You have clickbait we see every single day. They have clickbait in the social realm like YouTube. If you become addicted to that, you could very well become a false prophet. We become so used to spreading the clickbait, spreading the lie, that it becomes truth to you when you know
your moral, right? Your moral underpinnings are shifted based on where you're getting traction, right? Your stance shifts when if you put out a position and people gravitate to that, and may not be something you even agree with, and you keep moving. That is tossed around by every to and fro by every wind of doctrine. I'm glad, I noticed in here somebody was like, Doug's blowing up. He's doing better than there. Yeah, Carrie, he's got, and I love Doug's style. I think I'm so glad they brought him back, and I'm glad he's figured out a way to do it, and he's being informative, right? He is going and reading articles and commenting. That's all he's doing. He's finding articles on subject matters that are important to us, this audience, and then he reads them, throws out a comment, edits it together. And sometimes he does a more deep dive, and so he's doing good work. There are certain techniques that are a little bit clickbaity by putting his face on there, but it's also about he's a recognizable figure, and people will like, oh, I know that guy, I want to watch him. So it's not always clickbait to put your face on there, but it's definitely one of the tactics.
Right. And it's funny because with my new line of work, all this is at the forefront of everything I do.
I
Everything
love
I
it.
put out on my newsletter has to be just the facts, no bull. Tell me what's going on, and I'll think for myself. That's what I do. And it's not hard, but it takes time to scour through all the garbage.
Well,
All
I
right,
love you
Patriots.
all. I love you guys.
You're at that point. I'm going through the comments here. I think we're caught up. Okay. Michael, good sir, do you have any last words, parting words for us today?
God is in control. Always.
The only nobility that I will kneel to is my king, my real king. And I have no problem saying that. So stay true to yourself, Patriots. Stay true to your character. Don't become clickbait. Fight that temptation. Never surrender. Never submit. Patriots, have a wonderful day.
Bye, everybody.
Later.